welcome you to one of the most anticipated sessions of the conference this week. This conference is Altitude Adjustment and how airlines are navigating a changing industry. If there's one thing we all know, that the airline industry is in the midst of real and consequential change. For those of us that are involved with it, the technological advances, shifting economic conditions, evolving travel trends and workforce changes, even political pressures are forcing companies to adapt faster than ever before. For those of us that love this industry and want to lead in it, these are not abstract headlines. There are personal questions in our careers, our opportunities, and our abilities to shape the future of aviation. That's exactly why this conversation is designed to address. Today, you'll hear directly from top executives at some of the nation's most prominent airlines about how they see the landscape ahead. We'll talk about everything from pilot hiring, and maintenance pipelines to corporate roles beyond the flight deck, and the promise of new technologies, the challenges of DEI at this moment, and the vision for 2025 and beyond, 2035 and beyond. A chance to get real, unfiltered and timely insight on how these airlines are planning, what they're prioritizing, and where they see the need for talent, leadership, and fresh ideas. We're especially proud to offer this conversation in the spirit of OBAP's mission to help Black aerospace professionals not just find a seat at the table, but lead the industry forward. To guide this important discussion, we're honored to have as our moderator, Dr. Valerie Manning. Dr. Manning is an esteemed member of the OBAP Board of Advisors. She is a global aerospace executive, retired U.S. Air Force officer. She has over 30 years of experience leading complex aviation operations and transformative growth initiatives around the world. She's been a senior executive at Airbus, where she was a leader in the $4+ billion aftermarket service business, also overseeing more than 1,400 employees in 70 global locations. She brings deep experience in regulatory compliance, strategy, and the full life cycle of aircraft operations. Simply put, she is someone who knows the industry inside and out and is committed to helping it evolve. Please join me in welcoming our moderator for today's event, Dr. Valerie Manning.
Thank you. Thanks very much. So I'm really honored to be moderating this panel and the panel that's sort of getting the conference kicked off. We are calling it Altitude Adjustment for a reason, with the change that's happening and fast, and it's great for you to be able to hear directly from the leaders and take from what they're saying and internalize it for yourselves. Whether you're just getting started, you're in the midst of your career, you're thinking about how to transition into something else in the career, I think this is really for you. And you might notice that this session, unlike some of the others, doesn't have just one sponsor, right? So you see that the airlines are sponsoring by virtue of the level of talent that they're bringing here to speak with you. And before I introduce the panelists, I want to have them to have an idea of who they're speaking with here. So just a few things, just by show of hands. First of all, how many of you in the room are current or aspiring pilots in the industry? Okay, and just, even though it's the opposite, how many are non-pilots in the industry, all right? How many of you are, say, either aspiring or maybe in the first 5 years of your career? All right, okay, so you can see we have quite a breadth here of people to talk to. So yeah, so let's help me to introduce, I will introduce the 6 panelists. I have put them in alphabetical order by airline, because I don't want to start any trouble, I don't want to have any trouble. But no, this is great, and we know that we're all pulling in the same direction. So from Alaska, we have David Tucker, Managing Director of Public Affairs for California. American, we have Cedric Rockamore, who's the VP of Global Talent Acquisition and the Chief Culture Officer of American. Delta, Nicole Bell, HR Director and the Global Employee Engagement and HR Business Partner. Southwest, Chris Johnson, the VP of Ground Operations. United, Phil Griffith. Wow, look at that. Fan Club, the VP of the Houston Hub. And UPS, we have Captain Houston Mills, the President of Flight Operations. So you can see that we purposely, and thanks to Candace and others, wanted representation from many functions and also many backgrounds from within the airline. So, and we managed to keep it to one pilot, but one, albeit, as many of you know, Houston, who can speak about many aspects. So as you're a diverse audience in terms of what you're interested in your background, we have a diverse group on the stage. All right, so let's just get started. We're going to start fairly high level. Of course, you see I have my iPad here. We have some prepared questions, but it's meant to be conversational. And yes, we will have the opportunity and expect and encourage the questions that you want directly asked at the end of the session. So let's just start, right? State of the industry, state of the airline industry. We'd like to know how the panelists would describe the state of the airline industry and maybe some of the most urgent challenges that you're facing, economically, operationally, so high level. And, I'll start, we're here in the hometown, so I'll start with Alaska.
Well, good morning, good morning. I'm gonna try not to, I'm kind of stay away from the puns because this is gonna be so easy to put puns in this conversation today. But we're gonna keep it high level. We're gonna get to 30,000 real quick. Things are happening so rapidly in this industry that it's really hard to kind of really put your finger on what's going on. Every day we wake up, we can turn the news on and something is happening out of DC that now makes you adjust. Something might be happening locally with your airports in terms of policies that make you have to adjust. Things are happening just in the economy in general, people's pocketbooks, you have to adjust. And so we are in the process, of course, Alaska Airlines making some great announcements. You may have heard yesterday, we announced out of Seattle to London Heathrow. We recently started flying out Seattle to Narita, Japan. We're going to Rome. But all these things happen because of we see the industry growing in a way that makes it profitable, makes it accessible, and it makes it something that if you're entering into the industry, enlightening, knowing that there's opportunities that are going to grow. We are hiring a lot. I was talking with our station managers down in San Diego the other day, and she's onboarding, CSAs. We're onboarding ramp agents to a tune of, she's going to have about another 100 employees within the next 3 months. Again, that's just in California. But throughout the network, Alaska Airlines is growing. It's taking off. It's making people feel as though not only can you fly domestically, but you can fly internationally now with our partnership with Hawaiian Airlines. And the last piece I'll say on that, Hawaiian Airlines and the Alaska Airlines acquisition and now the bringing together of the culture is important for us as well. Making sure that bringing two families together can be challenging, but if we do it right, and we are doing it right, again, the sky's the limit.
All right, thanks. And Houston, considering also that you're representing kind of the cargo end, and that you're also how long you've been around OBAP, can you also maybe give your perspective on the same question?
So I would add, and we've got some young people coming in here, so that's really neat. Hey guys, how are you?
Hello, welcome.
Yes.
Please come in and you can come to the front.
So this is very timely, particularly with the young folks. So I'll speak really from a global perspective. Yep. So when I think about the state of the industry, I see this is a great time, young people, because the aviation industry is poised for ongoing growth. Travel is up post-pandemic. People are shipping more things around the world. And so even though there's a lot of uncertainty going on, right now in DC and other places, make no doubt about it, that the aviation industry is poised for a bright future. So I would just start from there, right? Don't get caught up in the noise. Don't get distracted from being focused on where you're going, because the opportunities will be there. One, because of growth. Two, because you got a lot of old folks like myself who are going to be getting out of the industry pretty soon. So from a sustainability perspective, we're going to have to hire new talent and onboard a lot of new folks to take this industry forward. So not only is there growth, but there's also opportunities because of, folks who will be leaving the industry in the future. So those are opportunities, right? I would also say from an opportunity perspective, the world, even though nationalism is coming back a little bit, the economies are still connected, and people still want to see the world. And so we'll be around for a long time. I would say from a challenge perspective, if you think about the FAA and air traffic controllers, you hear a lot about that in the news. Those are both opportunities and challenges. Opportunities in terms of the opportunities to be in that space, great paying careers. Challenges because we got an aging infrastructure, right? We just passed a pretty big bill to address that. It's going to take close to $40 billion before we repair our aging infrastructure. So those are challenges. There's a lot of aircraft that are aging. And so from a challenge perspective, we got our fleet renewal. I think about, I had the privilege as president of flight operations, I got about a $5 billion budget. And so we're always thinking about fleet renewal and what that looks like. So that's real for all the airlines, not just UPS, but for all of us. And so you think the challenge, you've got Boeing and Airbus as the leading manufacturers, and then them keeping pace. They've had their own challenges. And then you think about the supply chains. There's so many vendors. I heard the Deputy Mayor of Tacoma talk about them being a parts supplier and how important that is. Well, the aircraft today, as you know, Val, have a lot of different suppliers that bring things together. And so that's both an opportunity and both a challenge. So I think I'm very optimistic. I wish I could start tomorrow because I would not want to be in another place. I would love to still be here. I wouldn't go anywhere else because there's so many opportunities. I know we'll have some more conversations, but I just want to set the tone from that perspective. Lots of growth. Yeah, there's some challenges, but one thing is for sure with the excellence that we have and the preparation that this group and others will do, there's no doubt we're going to be in a great place.
And Chris, before the panel, you were talking about some of the specificities with Southwest, so you want to?
Yes, and my perspective is very similar to Houston's. Just when you think about the airline industry and what's changing in the landscape, we think about the last decade in the airline industry, and we've experienced the pandemic, ups and downs in the economy, and also just delays in aircraft deliveries. And then if you think about our customers, the changes that our customers require and what they want to purchase in a product have changed. So at Southwest Airlines, we're going through a lot of change as far as changing our product and making sure that we provide choices to our customers that they want in a travel experience. So a lot of change happening at Southwest Airlines. We're really excited about the future. We're going to make sure that from two standpoints, that we make sure that we take care of our employees and bring them along with the change that we're experiencing, and also make sure that we are willing to adapt to ensure that our product is what our customers want. So that's our big focus. We're really optimistic about the future, got exciting things coming, and most recently we announced that we're going to serve St. Thomas, so that's exciting for us and our customers, and there'll be more good things like that to come.
All right, great. So later in the panel, we're going to get really into the workforce part, but in this high-level view, and I think, Cedric, it'll be interesting to ask you, given your role today and your background, thinking about these industry-wide challenges, you have to build a workforce that it's not just skilled, but also resilient and prepared for this future. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, so I think about as just the industry evolves and change. I've been in this business for a little bit of time, and there has not been a single year on record. I can prove it, and if those of us who've been in it, that something new didn't come up.
Yeah.
Whether it's a pandemic, whether it's some economic piece, whether it's something is always going to come up. And I think about the industry in terms of how do you attract, how do you hire, how do you retain the best talent that's available. And so I think about it as when I was kind of coming up, there was not a lot of visibility to careers in aviation in high school or junior high school. So people were becoming aware of these careers as they got into their later years. Unless you, of course, knew someone who was a pilot, a flight attendant, or an engineer. And so we're trying to really focus on this early career.
Okay.
And really start our campus program and getting into these schools, because I think it's getting it embedded in folks early on that this is something that you can do. People think sometimes that being a pilot, although I am amazed and I'm always respectful of pilots, that it's somehow unobtainable because they don't know anyone who's been a pilot. And what people think it takes a lot. but it is obtainable. So we're trying to ensure that we are bringing access and awareness to careers in aviation for people who wouldn't otherwise know it exists.
No, that's excellent, and we will get deeper into that, but it's nice context. The CFO of Alaska also started talking a little bit about some of the macroeconomic trends, right, that are affecting people's travel. So let's talk for a second about airlines as a business, and what are some of maybe the shifts in either consumer behavior, travel trends, global affairs that are really affecting how you're planning for growth as airlines in the next, let's say, year to 2 years. That's really within the window many people are thinking about. I know you all could answer this, but Phil, do you want to jump in there?
No, we at United have a unique footprint in terms of our hub and spoke structure. So planning for growth for us means fully leveraging that structure so that we can really serve our markets well, not just domestically, but around the world. What's interesting about United as we plan for growth is over the years, early on when I joined United, a friend once told me, he said, Phil, you get ready. You're going to go through some ups and downs. Every 5 or 6 years, something crazy happens, similar to what we just described here. And one of the main differences at United is, we're planning for the next disaster. When we went into the pandemic, when the pandemic came across us, we had so much cash available to run the operation. And we realized that we needed to raise a lot more so that we can stay alive. As we've come out of the pandemic, we had growth plans, we had all the things that we wanted to do to make the company successful. But a part of making the company successful is having enough reserves so that when the next catastrophe happens around the world, we'll be in a position to weather that storm. So we literally have twice the cash now that we had going into the last disaster. This vision of being big and growing your operation to its potential is something that you have to be bold about. So you have to make decisions. You have to make bold decisions that says when no one else is buying aircraft, you're going to place the largest order in the history of aviation. And then you're going to place another one just after that. And let's throw one more in there after that, right? So, we feel really good about, how the whole plan is structured all the pieces of the plan are important. And beyond the financials, beyond the hub and spoke structure, beyond the aircraft that we're buying, we need to make sure we're bringing in people that are able to grow and to adapt and to perform while everything is changing all at the same time. So we feel real good about how it's all holding together at this point.
Yeah, it's a good point to raise the pandemic because, from the aircraft manufacturer side, from the airline side, I know a lot of us during the pandemic were thinking, okay, what's it going to be like in 2025? And now we're here today. Nicole, how about from the Delta standpoint?
Absolutely. So welcome, everyone. I would say for Delta, our motto is keep climbing. Hopefully you know that. We're in our centennial year, and so our motto this year is we'll never stop climbing. And I say that because when you think about growth, you have to think about that on a daily basis. Never stop climbing. You've never arrived. You have to continue to look forward. First U.S. airline to turn 100 years old this year. We were very proud about that. Hopefully we don't look a century years old, but when we think about what we're going to be focused on in the near term, the 12 to 24 months, we're thinking about how do we differentiate our products? How do we give our customers more choice? We know our customers want more choice in offerings, and whether that's digital, if that's physical, if that's onboard products or services. So we're really getting focused on what our customers want, being able to give them more choice and more of a personalized experience. I think where we are right now in the industry is, and all of us, right? We all want what we want, and we want everyone to be for it to be personalized to us. And so we have to be able to be nimble and move with the growth and changing of our customers. And so over the next 12, 24 months, we're just trying to differentiate those elevated products.
And it's true that one thing of our industry, we are all customers of our own product, right? So you're all representing airlines, but you all travel, have your own opinions about it. But you raise a point about what's coming. So how about if we shift a little bit to like technology and innovation? As we saw even before the wonderful group of young people walked in, we saw a good portion of the audience was either aspiring or in the first 5 years of their career. So when you're, let's say, working from within the airline, can you talk about some of the new technologies or innovations? Say, yes, you can talk about new aircraft. Perhaps there's, data analytics, ops management, things that are shaping the company's future that would be useful for the audience to know about. Again, you could all answer it, but Chris, maybe back to you. You talked about what's coming in Southwest.
Yes, that's a great question. So when you think about Southwest Airlines, safety is our #1 priority, and it's a core value of ours. And I know just looking across this panel, that's something that we are all united on. This is so important to keep our employees and our customers safe. So one of the first things that we're focused on is just continuing to improve our capabilities for safety. For instance, on our aircraft, we have actually installed runway collision avoidance equipment on all of our airplanes, and that'll be a required to operate piece of our aircraft. We're also looking at policies and procedures. When you think about turbulence events in the airline industry, we're coming up with more policies to make sure that we protect our customers and our employees. And then when you get into the airport space, we have a lot of activity going on. One of the things that we're doing is installing safety equipment and engineered controls to make sure that we protect our employees. An example of that is telemetry on all of our moving equipment, where if you don't wear your seatbelt, the equipment can only go to walking speed. And that sounds like something that's easy to do, but it's about a $60 million investment. When you think about our ground equipment fleet, is worth about $1 billion. So we're really focused on all things related to safety and compliance. And then next for that, as I mentioned earlier, we're doing a lot of things to transform our product. So we're really looking at ways to ease that travel experience for our customers. So we're investing in digital experiences for our customer. And for operational excellence, we're focused on a lot of things related to making sure that we turn our airplanes efficiently. And we're going to do that with more technology capabilities.
All right, and Houston, I know you're involved with a lot of what's going on with future technologies and UPS.
Yeah. So a couple things. One, I would say, just updating a very, I would say, old systems, and that's from crew scheduling systems to dispatching systems to networking systems, all those core operational systems that are required to make a large airline work, right? Many of those systems, legacy systems, have been around for years. And so this is an incredible time to optimize and really bring that new technology, particularly AI. And I think, when you think about data today, the question is, how do you bring in AI to help you understand what your data is saying so you can make sure you're making smart decisions going forward? So we're certainly in the process of partnering with some very large AI organizations. I know all of my partners up here are doing the same. So that's one piece from a technology perspective. But then when I think, kind of forward-looking, and you're thinking particularly about some of the new technologies from an eVTOL. And so you think about some of the new users that are coming into the airspace, whether that's Whisk, which is a Boeing, Archer, Beta, any number of those eVTOLs. And you talk about a little bit, Chris, about the customer experience. I know United, FBO, is partnered with the Archer. And you guys got a pretty big order. We've partnered with Beta. And so all those air taxi services and other interfaces, enhancing the customer experience. Of course, on the cargo side, that's important because you can do things, emergency response. So that technology is really challenging the industry. I had the privilege of serving years ago, appointed by Secretary Child and Secretary Buttigieg to the aviation, the Drone Advisory Committee, then Advanced Aviation Advisory Committee. And the things we were talking about with the administrator were integrating recommendations and policies that would enable these new users to come and integrate with us traditional users in the airspace. Because whatever comes next, what we know is we can't compromise public trust. So even though all these new technologies are coming, and you know this very well, Val, we have to make sure that it's integrated safely. So the policies that we're recommending to the FAA, to other countries as well, is how do you safely integrate these new technologies without disrupting the traditional. And oh, by the way, those new technologies mean new opportunities as well, for those of us in traditional aviation. So it's a full circle approach. So between the new users, AI, and certainly ongoing aviation specific for aircraft technologies that will enhance safety, enhance efficiency, make sure that aircraft can fly more fuel efficient, because one of the biggest, for all of us that fly, one of the biggest expenses that we endure is fuel. Over 50% of my budget is fuel. And so anything we can do to ensure that we're creating sustainable aviation fuel usage, reducing carbon emissions, and reducing the cost to operate through a very smart, efficient aircraft and policies is very important.
Yeah, and I did go straight from the big, heavy world of Airbus to electric aviation, and just even one of the biggest challenges there was building maintenance plans for high voltage electricity, which we had never done before. Does anybody else want to jump
Yeah,
in there?
Val, it's fun when you talk about new technologies
Yeah.
in terms of what's coming. But what happens when it's on top of you right now? In Houston,
Fair enough.
we are building a $2.5 billion project to build 41 new gates in our Terminal B. We actually have eVTOL landing points on top of that terminal. Next September, October, that terminal will be done. So there's so much that needs to happen as you get past the ideation to the actual execution. And when that execution starts, you still have to figure out how to run the place with the normal technologies, but also be prepared for the new stuff. So we're really excited about that. But since I have the mic, I'd like to drop a couple more things on you. Folks ask, what do I think is the most fascinating part technology-wise of the airline industry? Obviously, flying planes is great, but customers want to have control. And we have the industry-leading app at United Airlines that gives customers the ability.
What? Hold on, we're not going to throw fake news out there.
We can go if
You
you
do
want
have
to.
Delta sit
We can go if you want to.
We ain't gonna do that.
Okay.
See, that's
But
great
when-
thing about packages. Packages
Yeah.
don't care.
That's a true statement. Packages don't care.
But
I think we're all going to say we have the industry-leading app.
But when customers want to know where their bags are, and they look at the palm of their hands, they can see that. When you're in the middle of crazy weather, irregular ops, and you're on the plane and you just don't know what's going to happen next, and you look at your app and you see you've already been rebooked. When you need to understand a variety of other options in terms of how your journey is going to progress, it's a powerful thing to invest not only in your own company, but in your customers to get them to where they're used to this. We value our employees, and we think that a successful airline will always have bodies, people with experience and passion and empathy to take care of customers. But we want to give them the tools so that they can take care of them more effectively. As you get past that, you start looking at things that would never come to mind. I mean, who likes to stand in security lines? In Houston, we implemented CT scanners that allow you to check people through security at twice the speed. We have tools in place where we have the only early bag storage and retrieval system in the world that's owned by a private company. There's only 4 of them in the world: Korea, one in France, one in Dubai, and then ours in Houston, that allows bags that aren't needed right away to go to a staging point until they're needed, and they automatically come down and make their flight. So, the whole technology piece is really a big balance between what you need now so that you can run the operation and run it well, but how do you put the steps in place so that you're moving towards things that are, we call it change the unchangeable, we call it make the future now, and having people both in the flight deck as well as across the operation that have the ability to grow into that kind of stuff and keep pushing it forward is one of the things we're most excited about at United.
Okay. And Cedric, you got the United fan club here. Cedric, I'd like to go to you. And in context, you did raise AI, artificial intelligence, Houston. So I think it would be remiss of us not to dig a little deeper into that. So maybe you can bring that in as well.
Yeah,
as you're
well, I
speaking.
see United got the cheerleading squad over here. Well, is it
Hey,
American Airlines in the
all's fair.
building? Okay, so don't y'all have me sitting up here, y'all quiet. They pumping my man up. He throwing out facts and figures. So I'll just say a couple of things and then
That's
I'll
fair.
get into this AI. First, I think you started off by new routes y'all flying. Largest network in the world, factual. Second, I think you talked about some new airplanes. Been there, done that. Spent $25 billion 10 years ago. What else did I hear? I think we're there.
All right.
All right. So we're not gonna.
Let's keep it healthy.
Let's keep it. it's all in good. I think with the emerging technology, first, I think it's important that you put that emerging technology in context. It is still a people business. And it is still about the experience and the connection of people. So as we think about AI, we think about how do you connect that technology to the actual experience, never forgetting that it is an experience. Many of us have gotten on a phone or done something and you're dealing with bots and it is not fun. And so, but we do recognize that there are abilities to make that experience much better. I think your point around customers wanting control, that is factual, they do. But there are also many customers who want this experience and they're willing to pay for it and they want to be treated in a human way. And so when we think about AI and how you look into the future of that, we think about how do you take this emerging technology and build upon our existing customer-facing interactions.
Can I jump in real quick? Because I want to kind of turn it back to the audience. Because we're talking about emerging technology. And you all learned in school the output is only as good as the input. And so the question to the young folks that are in the room, how many of you are studying to be computer programmers? How many of you are studying to be coders? One hand.
They may be at a different conference, it's fair. But we need them.
But we're talking about this in the context
Yeah.
of the aviation space. And so
That's
when
true.
we talk about roles and responsibilities, we can talk about all the good things that are going to happen.
Yep.
But if we don't have the people, the young talent to bring in, then we're going to be stuck in the same spot that we've been in for the past 10, 15, 20 years. You know, we can piecemeal a lot of this. We can do some duct tape on things. We're going to put some money. We're going to do, but it's going to be you young folk who are thinking about getting into the aviation space to rethink what it means to be in the aviation space, and AI and new technology becomes that new platform. So when you go back home, you talk to your classmates and your others, this is maybe coming to this conference to learn about those things will help make this conference very rewarding for you. So I just want to kind of put it out there that the output is only as good as the input, and you're the input coming in to the future.
Hey, I want to add to that, David, because I would say that's so true. Because when we think about AI and technology, I think about it as how I leverage the autopilot today when I'm flying my 75, 767. I use that autopilot as a tool, to help me be successful in my mission. That's really what AI can do, right? It's if you're going to maintain the experience, you're not giving things up, you're leveraging technology. And I do like your perspective in terms of, if you, to give this to the audience, how can you leverage AI to level up, to make your job a little bit easier, to get a little bit smarter, to learn a little bit more. These tools today are phenomenal. They can give you so much information. And so when you think about excellence, right, you're going to hear that a lot throughout the conference, right? OBAP excellence, aerospace excellence. Excellence overcomes all the other rhetoric when it comes to qualifications, and nobody cares about. Excellence is the term. So leveraging AI, leveraging technology, to grow your excellence is phenomenal. I can tell you every day, me and Gemini, me and ChatGPT, that's my those are my friends.
Teddy G.
Seriously, there's not a day that goes by that I don't leverage that. Now, it doesn't become my voice,
Right.
but I've learned that the more questions I ask, the more information, and then I can go deeper and deeper. So I think, David, you're very wisely challenged the audience to make sure as part of your journey, professional journey, that you're learning about AI and how you can leverage it personally, because I can tell you, we in the airline, I just formed a team within flight operations at UPS, and it's the AI learning team. And my challenge to the team was, I want you guys to go out, use the tools that UPS allows us to use, right, because data is very precious, and then see how it can help you become better, see how it can help your team level up. And that's a real opportunity. See how it can help you innovate. And so from a technology perspective, we as the airline are leveraging that technology for user experience, but on a personal basis, I think David's very rightly says, we individually can use it to level up as well.
And Nicole, what about you?
Yeah, I just want to add, and if hopefully I can put a bow on to what everybody is saying here. I know some people may think AI is a scary place, but I want you to think about AI is not going to replace people. It will replace the people who won't use AI. So it is really upon yourself to take it every day, learn as much as you can, ask as many questions so it learns you, it knows you a little bit deeper. But it is really the people who will not change and not lean in and not use AI that will be replaced, not just replacing people.
And you guys can't leave me out.
That's fair enough. Hey, no, this is an important part, and by the way, I want you to answer, but for those, I guess I should say, not even especially for those starting out, maybe some in the middle of the career, think about this in terms of the skills that are going to continue to make you competitive, and that's what we're talking about here.
Houston, you mentioned operational excellence, and just when you think about just advancing technology, our filters is making sure that we provide a better experience for our traveling customers and our internal employees. And when you think about leading an airline, for instance, for Southwest Airlines, it's larger than what you think. So for us, we do 4,300 flights a day, and on an average day, we're transporting about 600,000 customers. And our thought is, how do you make that experience better for them? And we mentioned being able to track bags, and anytime you have an operational disruption, how do you get to a position where you can communicate to your customer, lessen that pain point for them, and make it where they don't have to stand in a line at the airport and get the information that they want. So that's really important for us. And then internally for our employees at Southwest Airlines, how do you make their job easier? So for instance, one of the things that we launched is a way for, and I think all of us have this, but a way for our crews, from the pilot to the flight attendant to our ops agents and customer service agents, to be able to talk and chat during the turn. So just that one benefit of opening that communication stream through technology, it saved our ops agent, who's in charge of weight and balance, 6 trips up and down the jetway. So that's a huge thing for us, and we're just going to continue to make sure that we're focusing on making sure that we better that experience for our customer and for our internal employee.
And so we can certainly go on the technology thing for a long time, but I do want to transition to what this means now really for the workforce. And we know earlier we have like sort of pilot track people in the room, definitely others. So let's talk about that. So let's just start with the need, right? I think recently, Boeing and Airbus aren't much different. Came out recently with a sort of annual update of the 20-year outlook of how many pilots will be needed in commercial aviation, right? How many technicians? The pilots are still saying over 20 years. Still in the mid 600,000s, technicians over 700,000, meaning mechanics, et cetera. We know though that the hiring, and we've seen some news that's come out from some of your airlines, what you need, but we know that the hiring climate is sort of constantly shifting, maybe more frequently now than it used to. So let's starting with the pilot side, can you share sort of what makes a pilot competitive in this environment? And we were talking about excellence. Where is that bar maybe being raised or changed in a way that people don't think about? Nicole, I can ask you for Delta. Anybody else who wants to jump in after that?
Sure. So Delta hires pilots from civilian, military, corporate backgrounds. We have our Propel program, our pilot pipeline, that we actually started back in 2019. Ironically enough, when I was supporting the Flight Operations Division for Delta. In that program, we have 4 different pathways for people to make it to the flight deck. And so I think at this point we are, since we're throwing things out there, we are the one airline who has the most people flying in the flight deck. So we have over 140 people who've gone through Propel, graduated, and is actually flying for a Delta mainline. So really proud about that. We have another 1,000 in the pipeline ready for to continue their journey. We give them a mentor to help them along the way. And so, that Propel program, I believe, is one avenue amongst the others that I spoke about. But when you think about competitiveness, we have pilots coming to Delta today with 3,000 to 3,500 total time, flight time, about 2,500 turbine time. And, while college degree is preferred, coming from a military or aviation university, that type of degree, as well as having 0 training failures, a 121 part training failure. So that's what I would say is competitive. But if I just add a little bit more, when you're talking about raising the bar, when as an organization like Delta continuously looking to keep climbing and never sit on our laurels, we think about hiring not just the pilot or not just the mechanic or not just the analyst or whatever the role is. We think about the character of the person. What else are you bringing to this role? How can you continue to help us innovate? How can you continue to have a focus for our customer, have a focus for each other, a focus for safety? So, on top of just the stats and the qualifications of a person, what is that true human that we're hiring? So that's really the competitiveness that we think about at Delta. Thank
Oh, we
you.
got
I
some Delta
appreciate y'all
cheers
too.
now.
I appreciate it.
Anybody else?
Thank
I want
you.
to jump in on that, Nicole, because I couldn't agree more. The last thing that Nicole said is so important, and that is obviously the technical skills are a given. Right? You got to come in with the qualifications, and those are articulated pretty clearly. I would also add, though, from a pilot perspective, that piloting command time is so important because we don't hire first officers. We hire captains, who happen to come into pipelines as first officers, but we expect you one day to fly our largest aircraft all around the world. And so coming in with that incredible, piloting command time and building that quickly is important because it gives you the confidence and the decision-making skills to operate safely in any environment. And you can't make that up. There's no shortcuts to that type of excellence. You got to have the experience. But I would say on the character side, I've seen the majority of our folks are types of folks that lean in. They never compromise safety. They're protecting their certificate, but they lean in because in aviation, there's a lot of gray. And so when those customers need our pilots to lean in there and say, well, the contract says I only got 10 hours, I'm out of here, there's 300 people, or I've got 30,000 packets and they're out. We've got some of those folks. Those aren't the type of folks that we try to recruit. They slip through the cracks. We're looking for the folks that see this as a career, that want us to be around for a long time, that have the professional pride, that understands that our decisions impact many. Never compromising safety, never compromising your certificate, but having the tendency to lean in and make things happen versus, this is black and white, I'm out of here. Those are the type of folks that we want.
No, I think that, and I love that, protecting the certificate and never compromising safety. And those are core values for all of us. I know that. And, also spending time helping folks get there. So we're investing in also our cadet academy. Also, when we talk about access and awareness, first is you got to know you can be a pilot. Second thing is how do you do it? So there's this small item called money. And so we want to help in that aspect as well. So not everyone is able to go out and afford to do it, but they have what it takes. And so we spend time, Brad Morrissey is here, he runs our pilot recruiting. And so we're spending a lot of time figuring out how can we help people get there as well.
Okay. So, and still on pilots for the moment, there can be a life for pilots beyond the flight deck. You know, Houston, you know that. You also know, my last role at Airbus running training and flight ops within the team were 400 OEM pilots, right? They have various roles from being test pilots, training pilots, but also the ones that come to the senior management meeting, talk to your pilots, get the feedback, go back to safety, go back to flight test, go back to engineering and give the feedback. And there's a lot that can be done in that knowledge, right? So think about being an OEM pilot. It's a very good job. But within the airlines, what are some opportunities for pilots beyond the flight deck? And when I say that, I don't mean somebody that necessarily lost their ability to fly, but how they can contribute in addition with these skills you've been talking about.
Yeah, we, on a normal basis, regular basis, we have pilots that rotate through our operation in Houston in assignments that range from staffing to airport operations from the flight ops point of view. When you look at leaders that we've had in our company, we've had hub leaders that were pilots. We've had station operation center leaders that have been pilots. So, I mean, there's just a real integration across the operation to try to make sure that for folks that want to move out of the flight deck and take on other leadership type roles, that opportunity is there. Do they go back? Sure they do. But back to the flight deck, of course they do. But I think when they go back with a different perspective on what it takes to make the operation run, it makes our whole company better.
Yeah, I would add, just from personal experience, a very, very unique career from that perspective. And I've always seen it like this. I'm a leader who happens to have a flight qualification. I don't see myself as a pilot who happens to be a leader. And so I think from that perspective, anyone who wants to do more, there's incredible opportunities for leaders. There's incredible opportunities for folks who know how to get things done. And so you don't have to limit yourself to just taking off and landing. That's a box. And so I would never be defined as a pilot, particularly if you're interested in doing more. And so from that perspective, it could be in operations, it could be in training, it could be in crew scheduling. You know, I had the privilege of going to DC for 2 years as a lobbyist for UPS and learning in that space, not as a pilot, but as a leader who the company invested in. So from that perspective, if you aspire to do more, then just fine. There's all kind of opportunities, out there for folks to seek. It's just a matter of, connecting, networking, and saying, you know what, I've got this unique skill. I'd like to do a little bit more. How can I get connected to that? And I think what you find on the leadership side, particularly from a diverse perspective, there's not a lot of folks who seek those opportunities out. So we're looking for that type of talent to bring that value. I mean, it's a great skill set. But I would also add, if I could, beyond pilots, crew scheduling and planning is a phenomenal professional opportunity. Our flight dispatch is phenomenal opportunity, well-paying jobs, great-paying jobs. Our maintenance control activities, not just work on aircraft, but maintenance control in the operation centers that are coordinating with all the mechanics. Those are phenomenal careers. So the whole aviation ecosystem beyond pilots, there's tremendous things that make these flight operations teams work. And oh, by the way, airline safety as well. And so the pilots are the beneficiaries. We're at the tip of the spear, and we get all the attention, but all the activity that's going on in the background is really at the heart of what's making things happen.
Yeah, I'd like to transition to that and give the kind of equal air to outside of the flight deck. Everything that you mentioned, but also safety, strategy, HR, public affairs, ground ops. I'd like each of you to speak a little bit about, just because there may be roles that people don't even know exist, and what will help to make these people successful in these types of careers. Why don't we start with you, David?
So, yeah, I come from outside of the industry. I've been with Alaska Airlines about a little over 3 years now. And my background's really been in the public relations, government affairs space. And what I bring to the table is because I have built a network of relationships. That is going to be the key for no matter if you're wanting to become a pilot or a non-pilot. It's about the relationships that you build. It's about the network that you build. And then it's how you leverage those relationships to access opportunities. Like I said, I oversee public affairs for California for Alaska Airlines. And it really means, for me, how Alaska Airlines shows up in our communities. How are we supporting our communities? How are we supporting organizations, nonprofits in our communities? It's how are we engaging with the elected officials who oversee our airports that we are leasing space from, to the point where we talked about being a lobbyist in DC. These are roles that folks don't necessarily see on the front end because everything we do is on the back end. But the value proposition that we bring to the table is so important. Prior to coming to Alaska Airlines, I did a lot of work negotiating contracts in the waste industry. And I always used to argue with our CFO at the time because he would say, public affairs, you're on the cost side of the ledger, meaning we don't make money, we don't sell, we don't market, but I always interrupt him and say, yeah, but when you have a notice of violation, who do you call? When you need an expedited permit, who do you call? When you need something done, who do you call in terms of influencing a outcome for your contracts? So we may not necessarily make you money, we save you a whole hell of a lot more money than you would have had in the first place. And so for those looking outside coming into this industry, it's those silent roles that actually have a bigger impact than you might think. And so, again, but it goes back to creating a network, leveraging a network for opportunities that can exist in places that you'll never think of.
And Chris, what about the ground op side? I have a feeling, may not be true, but a feeling that there may be some people that would describe your job to you, and you're like, no, that's not what it is, and there are things about it that people don't know that might be they find really interesting.
Yeah.
You like to?
And I'll provide two different perspectives, just as far as spreading the talent, as far as what pilots bring to the table across the organization is really important for us. And there's a lot of goodness that happens in the organization. Like, for instance, at Southwest Airlines, our director of operations is actually a pilot for Southwest Airlines, and he's still current and he still flies. Our director of safety and security, he's a pilot for Southwest Airlines. And we've had leadership from a flight ops standpoint who oversaw our crew scheduling network. So all those things are really valuable. And then when you flip it, there's also some value in pilots who aspire to fly for us, and they come into the airline in a different perspective. For instance, I have a quick story. I have an employee who actually started entry level as a ramp agent, and he was flying on his own, continued to fly through the process of being a ramp agent, and he rose all the way up to leading our Chicago station. And then he gained enough hours to briefly leave Southwest and come back, and now he's a first officer for us. So what value does that bring for this person that's had the perspective of leading a station who's now in the cockpit? That's really important for us.
Okay. And Phil, for those who maybe they're like, oh, I'm not interested in flying a plane, but how do I best add value? Like, what are some of the things that that people may not obviously be aware about?
Yeah. I mean, there's just all the infrastructure that's required to make an airport work. There was a time, maybe 8 or 10 years ago, where there was a narrative that said there wasn't enough investment in the aviation infrastructure in America. But then you'd go to Europe and you'd see airports that are just amazing. And you wonder, what do we have to do to get that type of infrastructure, that capacity, that overall feeling to our airports in America? Corporate real estate is a big thing. Being able to manage vendors and concessionaires in your airport is a really big thing. Being able to find contractors that could take on multi-billion-dollar projects is a really big thing. And by the way, so many women and minority-owned businesses haven't had access to that type of opportunity over the years. It's an area where there's a lot of opportunity. And if you have a good product, if you have a good skill set, if you built yourself up, you can do a lot in terms of just that infrastructure piece, because there's so much opportunity out there. But maybe the more exciting piece of it to me is the overall customer experience. What you want is to be able to go into an airport and feel good from the time you enter the property to the time you get on the plane to the time you get off. You want the vacation to start early in the trip, not when you get to your destination. And there are so many things that exist in the industry that can influence that. All of the marketing around the products that we have, all of the destination-related information that's put out there in terms of, this is what one airline does versus what another airline does. There's a lot of intelligence out there that says here are the next hotspots. I mean, you don't have to be a pilot to understand that. But the IT, the computer technology that helps to bring a lot of that stuff together. There's just a lot of great opportunities out there. And for someone who didn't start his career in the aviation industry, it just continues to amaze me how transferable skills are for folks that may have started off as an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, an IT professional. You can transfer a lot of that into the aviation industry and be very, very successful.
Absolutely, and there is another panel during the conference that's focusing on beyond the flight deck. This is an airline panel, but as you all know, there's, in terms of the numbers, more technicians needed than pilots, and in a way, it can be even more complex because not everybody wakes up, at 5 years old and says, "I want to be a maintenance technician," but it's a great career, and there's a whole industry in the MRO business on that. But there's another panel on that. All right, so. Let's, I want to make sure we leave a lot of time for questions. I want to get a little bit back to the, understanding sort of the airline world and talk about culture. It was kind of funny, everybody laughed. You're up here, you guys are all fighting for your airline, and that's great because you need to believe in the brand, you need to believe in the company that you're in, not to the detriment of others, but because you're, being positive. But it's true that culture can often make or break a workplace experience. And it's not only good or bad, it's about fit, for example, right? So I guess not in terms of right or wrong, but just in terms of especially those starting out who need to understand how to think about that fit. I'd like to have an example of how you describe maybe company culture, the importance, and how it's involved, in response to employee feedback, changes today, anything we've talked about up to now. So Nicole, would you like to start us off on that?
I'll start us off. So what I believe is for Delta, our company culture is actually our business strategy. So there's a lot of people who sit in rooms and try and come up with a business strategy. Our strategy is our people. We believe that our people is our biggest asset. We can't do anything without amazing people. And so when we think about culture, we think about what decisions do we make every single day that keep our people at the core of those decisions. And so one of those things is we recently did a total rewards survey. We survey a lot. I'm sure all of us survey our employees all the time. But we did a survey asking our employees, yes, this is the benefits and total rewards that we give you, but is this truly what you want? And so listening to feedback, we've taken our employees' feedback and been implementing where should we be investing these dollars? Where do people really want? What travel benefits do they really want? So we've made changes and invested in our people because we know that is our biggest asset and our greatest asset. Another thing that we've done is not just focus on wellness from a total compensation standpoint, but really focus on employees' full wellness. So their emotional health, their physical health, their financial health. 2 years ago, we established a program called the Emergency Savings Program, and that is to ensure that our employees are financially healthy, right? And so we established this program that essentially is helping our employees become more financially literate. Our employees go in there, take some modules, learn about what to do with their money, no matter if you have a little bit of money or a lot of bit of money, what should you be doing with that money, and how should you be spending, how should you be budgeting. Once employees are done with that, they get $1,000 to go into their savings account, no strings attached. Here's your $1,000. Thank you for becoming more financially well. And we did that because we know that there's a lot of Americans, including our employees, who, when an emergency comes up, they don't really have anything to fall back on. There's no safety net to help them when the car breaks down or something happens. And so we want to ensure that our employees are fully well across the spectrum. And when those employees get that $1,000, they can use it. If they want to go buy some new J's, they can do that. But they also can save it. And our hope is after they've done this module, after they've learned a little bit, how important it is to have that savings. And so that's just one example of how Delta really not only says that we care about our people and is the biggest asset, truly action on it, and we put our money directly to our employees because we truly believe it.
All right, no, excellent. And that makes me think of another topic. It's, how you're caring for people, making them feel included, right? And I think, Cedric, I'd be interested in hearing from you on how you, for example, embody that. But as well, we all know that right now in this environment, there's been the weaponization of the term DEI, right? Like, it's a bad thing. You're trying to lower standards. And we, especially, I'm not saying especially, but in aviation, we know that's not at all the point. The aperture needs to be open to fill this massive pipeline, to give people the opportunity to meet those safety standards, excellence standards. We know that's what it means. But some companies may be fearful, and what do we do? And the government, there might be some backlash. So what do you do to ensure that this community has just the opportunity to compete for the roles that they want to compete for?
Yeah, it's interesting, and you started out the panel discussion around the landscape, the current landscape. Yeah. And we all know that in this current administration, the term DEI has been deemed illegal. And I think sometimes there's not an appreciation for that. Whether it's illegal or not illegal, folks, we leave that to the attorneys. What we have done at American Airlines is we were fortunate enough a few years back, about a little less than 200 of us spread across the company, came together to say, what is our purpose? What is our why? And we came up with, we're here to care for people on life's journey. Because you can anchor to that in any environment. And so I don't know how you can say, which we do, that you're caring for people on life's journey, but you don't have representation throughout your organization. You don't have fairness throughout your organization. People don't feel that they belong in your organization. These are all things about care. So for us, it is just remaining connected to that. We say culture is our competitive advantage. That's what we're doing. We want to build a culture that says, hey, I want to work or do business or fly with American Airlines because of the culture that they created. And again, it goes back to this notion of caring for people. And that means different things to different people. So we are not trying to, again, be a one-size-fits-all. We're trying to say, hey, what does care look like? And care looks like different things to different people, and we meet people where they are. And so we're not walking away from or shying away from the work, the concepts around DEI. But we're not, at least I'm not interested in getting into some legal argument or something around, is it illegal, is it not? What we know is not illegal is caring for people on life's journey.
Yeah, I would add to that. Well said, Cedric. And I think for us, very, very similar, I would say that, and I'll just say for folks that, all of us, we serve the world, right? So all of our airlines collectively serve the world. So it isn't important to have a workforce that reflects the world that you serve, right? And so that's what we do. And so it's very important that we have a workforce that reflects the world that we serve. And I think we have to avoid allowing anyone to stereotype and put a stigma to a term that has no input on the excellence and the performance and how we go about making sure this industry is safe and successful in the future. Because we do serve the world. And we just make sure that the folks that come in, and our part is knowing our stuff, being better than the person next to you, leveling up, getting better, never letting anything less than excellence define you. I was in the Marine Corps, and in the Marine Corps, part of that culture is looking good. And we say, hey, you step out, you look good, you feel good, you step it up. And so excellence isn't just in knowledge, it's how you conduct yourself, it's how you appear, it's what people see. They look at you, they see excellence, they're going to respond, and they can't respond any other way because you epitomize excellence. That's the journey. And Cedric, to your point, I couldn't agree more. It's all about the people. We care about people. All people and we're trying to help all people be successful.
So I'm going to, just one moment, because I want each of you to speak. I think this is a good topic, even, let's say, for a dismount. I want all of you out there thinking of questions, because I'm purposely leaving time. I promise them that this audience is not shy, and you've heard there's pretty much no topic we won't talk about. So be thinking of your questions, and then I'd like, each of you on any of the topics, this is a good one, the one we're on right now, just to give maybe a closing statement before we get into the questions. I think you wanted to.
Yeah, I'll give one. So on the topic of just what we just discussed, our CEO, Robert Isom, was asked about what is American Airlines' stance on DEI. And I thought his comment, again, back to caring for people on life's journey, and his comment was, we are going to hire the best talent available. And so I think that is, to me, that's the foundation of it. The best talent available resides in this room. So back to your point, it's in this room. And so we don't want to be relegated to a small subset of the human species. We're broad, and so you're in this room, and we want you to be a part of our team.
Yeah. Go ahead, Nicole.
Anyone else? No order.
I'll go in order. Okay. What I would say is, going back to one of Delta's CEOs, the founder quote is that Delta has people. Delta's people cannot be replicated. Everybody can have the same airplanes. We can all fly the same destinations. But one thing you can't do is replicate the people. And the reason why I bring that up is the call to action to you all. Be the difference that no one else can replicate. Be the difference that nobody else can come behind you and do the same thing. And so, regardless if you're in the flight deck, if you're behind the scenes, if you're in the boardroom, wherever you are, be that difference. Lead with care. Make sure that you invest in your craft. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Invest in your craft, and then you show up with pride that you know you have something different that you're bringing to the skies. And so I really think that that is the thing that will help propel this industry, and not just for us all sitting here, but for the people that come up behind us.
All right.
So for Southwest Airlines, culture is so important for us, and it is part of our DNA. And I had the benefit of working for Southwest Airlines for 33 years. And within that 33 years, I actually had one-on-ones with our founder, Herb Kelleher, and then Colleen Barrett. And we talked so much about culture and the importance of our people, which is the strength of Southwest Airlines. And it embedded a lot of things in me, that the greatness of Southwest Airlines happens because of our people. So for us, the way that we live that is we focus on our employees. We have what's called the Southwest values. And it's actually a commitment from Southwest Airlines to our employees on what we're going to do with them as far as an employer is concerned. And then that commitment is twofold, because as an employee of Southwest Airlines, you also have a commitment. So that bond is really strong for us. We make sure that we still focus on hiring the best, as we all stated up here, but we are so proud to be associated with OBAP. And one of the things that really brought that home to me was last year. I met a pilot at Southwest Airlines who was working in our booth, and this pilot looked like he wasn't even out of high school. And he impressed me so much, and we started talking, and we still talk today, and he was 24 years old. And he told me the value of OBAP and how that helped him with his career, the support of OBAP, and it brought him through the ranks for working for a smaller carrier and then coming to Southwest Airlines as a first officer. So we have to make sure that we continue to support organizations such as OBAP, and then all of our other organizations that relate to women pilot, Latinos, and Asians also, to make sure that we continue to keep a diverse pipeline.
Great. Phil?
And Phil, before you go, I do got to give a shout out to my Southwest people, and then the amazing Lou Freeman, who I saw in the back.
No, we've all had opportunities to see people on the way in and people on the way out. To the people on the way in, you oftentimes wonder, do they have the wherewithal to stick with an industry like this, especially when times are tough? I've had the opportunity to work in a lot of industries, and I'll tell you that the airline industry is tough. And you've got to be really good at what you do. Not just on day one, but you have to keep evolving. and you have to keep finding ways to get better and better and better and to be able to pivot as the situation requires. But there's also a fit portion to it as well. Working with a company that has the values, that has the support structures to allow you and your excellence to thrive is very important. At United, we have our business resource groups that I'm very proud of. I've seen many of them get started from scratch, from resource groups for African American, Black people of color, Hispanics, LGBTQ, people with challenges at home in terms of family members that they have to care for. These types of groups give you a place to go and rest from time to time. They give you a place to go and to take a harder look at yourself and to figure out, are you applying all these things that you're good at in the best way? They provide advocacy, and they provide that voice in the room when you're not there that says, you know what, that person's really good. We need to give him or her a shot at that next opportunity. So I would challenge you to make sure that there's a focus on both sides. Find a company that has values and support resources that create a good fit for the areas which you are totally and completely committed to being really good at what you do.
Yeah, and I would just add, from a personal, I'll tell you my personal culture playbook, and I've used it everywhere. I learned it in the Marine Corps. And one is create an environment where people feel like they're part of something special. They're part of a team. Because if people feel like they're doing meaningful work, they'll give you discretionary effort. So that's one part I think that's important, and it centers around the people. Two is you got to feel like people got your back. You create a team environment where you can count on each other, and create an environment where people know that, hey, I'm going to have some good days, I'm going to have some bad days, but one thing I know is no matter what, I've got people with me. And I think that's one great thing about this industry, right? That's what OBAP is all about. It doesn't care that one of us has been successful. We want everybody to be successful. So that sense of, team and moving everybody together is another. And then third, I think just enjoying the ride and showing appreciation and recognizing excellence and not taking it for granted, not taking your job for granted, appreciating the honor to serve. It's a privilege to have these positions. So if you approach our careers from that perspective, then the way we attack the work is much different. Nobody owes us anything. And I realize in my role, I'm just a temporary servant, and someone's going to come behind me. But I've got this amount of time to influence things in a way that'll hopefully be impactful long after I go. How great is it if all of us take that same perspective, no matter where we are, our goal is to influence things to the better, so that when you leave, your footprint is still there.
Excellent. And David, I'll give the last before we go to questions.
Thank you for the opportunity for the last word. And I think the last word for Alaska Airlines, when we talk about culture and belonging, there's a common thread. What you've heard today, that we all care about safety, that we all care about our people, we care about the future of aviation, and we care about just being generally companies that matter. And I think for Alaska Airlines, the DEI question, when I looked at it, was it hit me in two different ways. But one of the things that we as a company did, and I need to read this statement because I think it really stands up what Alaska Airlines' values are. And so if there's any lawyers, anybody taking notes that want to go out and say, well, this is what David said, I'm going to make sure we said what our public statement is. We remain steadfast in our commitment to recruit, retain, and promote the best talent. This is part of our commitment to do the right thing by our guests, employees, and communities, and to create a culture in which employees can do their best work and best serve the breadth of our customer base. We believe that all who depend on Alaska Air Group deserve respect, regardless of race, ethnicity, ability, age, gender, sexual orientation, or gender identity. We are committed to treating every person equally on or off our aircraft. We will continue to foster a workplace where our employees feel safe, cared for, and trust that they belong. I think everyone up here believes that we have a duty to our community. And when I say our community, our collective look-like community, when we go home this weekend, the challenge and the ask of you is to go back to your spaces, whether it's your church, whether it's a community organization that you belong to. I'm a member of Alpha Alpha. I hope there's some alphas in the room. Hey, go back to your Divine Nine. Everyone has a recruiting opportunity just within those spaces so that we can share our stories, so we can recruit the best talent, so that we can make sure that the pipeline continues to be full and that our employees are continuing to be blessed by working in the aviation space.
Thank you. Let's have a round of applause for our panel. And I've almost hit the goal of having 15 minutes left for questions, so I don't have to pull any teeth. All right, well, don't have to pull teeth. Okay, so how are we? There are a couple of microphones, so I think this is the first panel, so I don't know exactly the process, but please come up and speak.
One here and a microphone there.
Oh, yeah, you can walk up to the mic then. And please say who you are. And
Hi, good morning. Thank you guys for your time. My name is Malachi. I have two questions for you guys, or for all of you all. So I'm in a tough situation in my career. So right now I'm a flight instructor. Last year, I started flight instructing, and I was able to do it for just under a year. Unfortunately, I had to leave the flight school I was at the beginning of the year due to personal reasons. And ever since then, I have been trying like my best to get back into that seat. I feel like I've did everything that I could, you know, calling flight school. So I'm currently based out of Phoenix, Arizona. Pretty much calling every single flight school out there every 2 to 3 weeks, putting my resume out there, sending in applications, going to visit these schools, and nothing has stuck. I've started to look at 135 jobs as well, and it's just been very humbling feeling that sort of rejection of feeling like I'm not in control of that destiny because I'm like waiting for the call. I'm waiting for someone to give me that opportunity. And I wanted to ask you guys, in this hiring environment, how do I set myself apart to be able to get that job? And not just at the instructor 135 level, but also when I reach that 1,500 hours, how can I set myself apart to get that job immediately? Because I would say I have instructor colleagues who are at about 1,800 hours, and they're not getting those calls. And what they did to try to set themselves apart, they went out and paid for their ATP. They paid for their type ratings, and they're still not getting those calls. So it seems like, it feels like you can do everything you can, but it's still not stick. So like, what are some words of advice to, one, just to continue fighting, but also how can I set myself apart in this hiring environment to get the job?
And I definitely want you to answer. I'm looking at the time and looking at the number of, I'm a victim of my own success at getting people to answer questions. So we may not be able to get to them all, but the panelists will be here once we're finished if we don't get to all your questions. But any thoughts?
Yeah, I would just say stay persistent, right? I think all of us in this industry know that there's ebbs and flows. So whatever you do, don't give up hope that the opportunity is going to come. And then just continue to get in front of people, right? Continue to leverage your network, get in front of people, leverage your network, stay persistent, but most importantly, don't get discouraged.
All right. Let's go.
Morning. My name is Wadiq Bado Jr., student at Liberty City State University. I have a question. You guys were talking about like company culture and how DEI plays into that. And when it was first explained to me, DEI is about getting different perspectives on issues or technical specifications or whatever. I am a Navy nuclear veteran, right? I spent 6 years of my time in the Navy on the Gerald R. Ford, a $27 billion prototype that took a very long time. And part of that problem was a lot of the people who designed that ship were too close to the problem, right? The people that were down in the trenches, in the engine rooms, and dealing with everything on a day-to-day basis, our voices were not really being heard because of outside pressures from the United States government, because it went over budget and went over time and all that stuff. So my question is, well, maybe it's twofold. how do you guys implement employee feedback into how things are changing, and how do you balance that with your outside forces, be it the customers or the stockholders?
I'll start it out. Just for me, I think it's just so important for you to hear from our frontline employees because they are the experts at what they do. So that feedback that they give you is so important. So for me, I try to make sure that I create channels that we can hear that feedback via town halls, going out visiting locations. Yesterday was a perfect example. When I landed in Seattle, I lead the airport operations. I was at the airport late just looking at some of the challenges that they have with red-eye flying. So always just creating those opportunities to hear, listen, and then close that feedback loop on those suggestions that you get.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Natalie, and I come from the 135 world. Before that, I worked for a UPS feeder out in California, so I have cargo and corporate, and I think it's time to take the plunge and try the airlines. So that's why I'm here, just trying to network, and I feel like I definitely missed the window. I am Generation Y, and from my perspective, it seems like all of these companies came up with very great pipeline programs the year after I graduated. So I was no longer eligible for any of those. So I kind of went out on my own and did the corporate thing. So my question is if you could offer any advice for me, someone who missed the pipeline. And I have all of these hours, these great experiences, and a ton of hours. Well, I have 4,000 hours. I feel like that's a ton, makes me a great candidate. But I don't have the connection to an airline. So I'm kind of struggling. Like, I know I'm a great hire. I know I'm a great candidate. I'm super well-rounded. I would be an asset to any company that I choose to apply for. But unfortunately, I missed the pipeline. I missed that hiring, like, boom. So can you offer any sort of advice that would make me stand out more in my resume or when I'm applying? Do I just name drop? What advice do you have?
So I'll jump in there, and this is for you and anyone else in the room. Please stop by the Delta booth. We have our pilot recruiters there, our Propel team there. We have tons of people who are in your same situation, hence why we came up with our company program as well. So we've had people who join Delta specifically in your shoes who say, you know what, I want to work in this whatever position for the next year or two, and then I want to get into Propel, and then, you know, they're in the flight deck now. So I would say speak to our Propel team, you know, join the Delta team. We have plenty of people who were standing outside of Delta with the same issue that you're having. And so I said, you know, lean into that. We would love to have you at Delta. We love great people. So look into Propel.
My application's in.
What she said, but American Airlines.
Definitely,
What he said, but Southwest Airlines.
Well, you're already
definitely
a
do
UPSer,
not-
so what are you doing?
Definitely do not be shy about going to the booths, going to the rooms. For all of you thinking about the personal opportunities, I'm just going to keep going until somebody kicks us out. Y'all all right?
I'm okay, but for the Propel stand or the booth, the Delta booth, I did hear there's some boots on the ground party going on. If you go to the Delta booth, you can possibly get a fan. So get a fan that says Delta, and then go to whatever party that is later. So.
All right, let's go
Bribery
to the
will
next
get you nowhere.
question. Did you have?
I just wanted to say thank you.
Oh, no worries.
Thank you.
All right. I'm just
Yeah,
going
good
back and
morning.
forth.
So first of all, I want to thank Houston for specifically naming flight dispatch as a critical and rewarding role in aviation. Thank you. And a few things came up when we were talking about AI. So we who are studying AI specifically know that it has a tendency to affirm rather than challenge users. So how are you training your people to recognize this? Are you advocating for systems that can appropriately push back or offer alternative perspectives? And since DEI resources are becoming increasingly constrained, what safeguards do you have in place to monitor and prevent AI from amplifying these existing biases in hiring and resource allocation?
Wow, that's a deep question.
That's
I would say that in terms of using the tools itself, you know, again, it's a tool, and so that doesn't mean you rely on the tool. The tool is meant to be used. So the human interaction with the data and the output of the information is very important. And so challenging assumptions and questioning things, and because AI doesn't always get it right. And so that's where that human interface comes in. And I think as these models evolve, I think from an industry perspective, these biases and things are being developed in these models are just things that we're just have to continue to push back against. And I think that comes to the dollars that we spend and the economic impact from that perspective. But what a great perspective.
If I could just add, you still have to know how to do the math. You still need to know how to do the work. Using AI as a crutch that says, hey, give me the answer to this problem, and then you blindly take that answer, that's probably not the way we're going to be successful over time. You still need to know how to do the work and work your way through the alternatives associated with that. I think to Houston's point, AI is just a tool. You don't use a screwdriver for everything, and you don't use a hammer for everything, but they're both useful tools.
Just for information, I got permission for us to be here until 11:45, then we have to go. But don't feel bad if you have to get up and leave, because we're about to the end of the time. Question?
Good morning. My name is Julius Carter. I'm a third-year flight education major, aviation management minor, currently studying at the Hampton University. My quick question is, I think, Ms. Nicole, you had said it earlier, AI won't replace people, but will replace those who don't use it. And I was just wondering, as me being a pilot going into commercial training, right? I'm trying to figure out how I can implement the use of AI to better, maintain my value for an airline. There was flight engineers, now there's no flight engineers. Now it's only 2 people in the cockpit. And with autopilot and all these other advancements in technology, I feel like there's gonna be less people in the cockpit. So I'm trying to figure out how I can use AI to better, maintain my value to an airline. And I'm trying to look for more advice on what I can do just to implement those skills into, my future as a pilot.
Fair question.
Well, I would just say, just from a pilot perspective, using AI to leverage up your knowledge and your professional skill set, that's like the best. Because when you come to any of us, for an opportunity and you're able to articulate what you know, kind of to Phil's point, you've got this knowledge in terms of how you operate. And then when you face situations which will be very unpredictable, the more knowledge you have, the more equipped you'll be to challenge whatever that complex problem is.
Yeah, and the only thing I was going to say, not necessarily from a pilot perspective, when you think about AI, you're asking me a question about how to do that, and that's the beauty, I would say, of AI. AI, what you put into it, the prompts is really the value that you'll get out of AI. So learning more about exactly how to ask AI questions, exactly what you want, the information is out there, right? You also need to know how to do the jobs because you need to know if the information is correct. But when it comes to being better at AI and using AI, I just say use it every single day. It is going to be our future. It's coming. It's here. It's already, it's in front of us. Learn how to give the best prompts to get the best out of AI.
And there are courses out there, free courses about prompt engineering, other things that you can train yourself on.
Thank you guys so much.
I'm just going back and forth. So.
Hi, I'm Finesse, and I'm a student at Purdue. We were talking earlier about technological advances in aviation, and my question is kind of similar, but in the next 50 years, do you guys see us switching to a single pilot cockpit?
So there, obviously, in eVTOL and other drone activity, there's a lot of work being done for unmanned, uncrewed aircraft. But if you think about 777, 747, 757s, A300s, A360s, those are manned aircraft that are going to be around for the next 30, 40 years. So manned aviation isn't going away. Will there be a new opportunity for new technology to come to the airspace? Absolutely. Yeah. But pilot opportunities are going to be around for a long time.
Absolutely.
Hello, my name is Andrew Quarles. I am also a third-year flight education major, aviation management minor from Atlanta, Georgia. And I was wondering, with AI being relatively new, how would it be incorporated into the training aspect in the airline industry as well as being in flight training? Because I know we still have to use E6Bs, plotters, sectionals private pilot training. So I was wondering how would it be incorporated for airline training?
I don't have that one.
So
I know
I've
for
got that,
OEM,
'cause I've got training at UPS. So I tell you specifically, there's a lot of video content that we put for distance-based learning. So we're leveraging AI to help us develop that content and go through emergencies. I'm going to fly a trip from Portland to Louisville on Monday before I head back. And I've got a whole slate of tools on my iPad that were created both by humans and by AI that I can review different procedures, emergency procedures, et cetera, So they're just tools that help me be prepared. So we're incorporating AI into helping us build content.
Thank you.
And I have a comment also because there's AI and there's data analytics, right? And the data analytics piece is used even in training and in general aviation training. I mean, even in the Cirrus world, which I'm a big part of, there's a big push on saying, okay, and even in incidents, looking at, okay, the incidents that tend to happen when people are arriving, flat and fast. Why? Because after every flight, you can download and look at, how long was my flare? It's amazing how much data analytics are out there. And then the AI comes with, okay, how do we interpret that data to then predict for the future? So understanding there's a lot to be done there.
Good morning. My name is James Hunter. I'm a first officer for Mesa Airlines and the regional director for the Southwest region of OBAP. Shout out to Southwest. I have a question on the DEI value proposition. I know when people talk about DEI, oftentimes it's presented as like a handout, when it really is a value add to any company that chooses to kind of value it and chase after diversity and equity and inclusion. When you think about the customer experience and the entirety of the customer segments that we want to deliver an experience to, it helps to have diversity in those decision-making rooms. My question, I guess, is how do we do a better job of educating people on the value and strength that DEI offers and presents?
I think it is one that we talk about, or at least I think about, and that is, I think when we, again, back to the best talent, you show up, you do the job well, that's the end of it. I mean, you show up, you do the job. When you have an opportunity, you don't squander it away. Unfortunately, sometimes you have to be the standard bearer, but that's the way it is. So you don't squander it away, and you show up well.
I guess I would add to that we playfully compete up here, but truly, when the value proposition is at the end of the project, at the end of the strategy meeting, at the end of whatever it is, when you see the excellence at the end of that, that's the value proposition. No matter, what shade we are here in this room, at the end of that thing, if it's excellent, that's the value proposition.
Good morning, my name is Dennis Blacknall Jr., and I'm a senior at Texas Southern University, and I major in aviation science management. My question is, are there any specific platforms or tools that management students could be using right now that will give them an edge in this industry?
You're studying aviation management?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I think getting good grades is probably a good start, right? I'm not trying to be cheeky with you. I'm just saying when you go deep on whatever the curriculum is that you signed up for, that's where it starts. We have recruiting programs at United where we go to all the universities and we put a special effort on going to many HBCUs. And one of my biggest disappointments is when we have a huge effort to go to an HBCU, and then when these folks are given the test to qualify for an interview, they fail the test. Cost accounting is cost accounting. Debits and credits are debits and credits. Math is math. And you need to pass the test. And if you do well in your curriculum, you'll be very well positioned to pass the test so that all the rest of that good stuff in there can come on out in the interview and you can compete and you can go on out there and meet your potential. Looking for the edge, to me the edge is doing really well in the studies that you've got because most people don't. right? Don't miss an assignment. Go to class. Network as best you can. Review the exams that you've taken already and make sure you understand why you missed a question. Get all that stuff down, you pass the test, there's your edge.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ashanti Mallet. I'm with the Ascension chapter from Kent State, and I'm currently a flight student there. And my question, I know we've mentioned AI a lot, and my question is, AI is being implemented a lot more into just about everything, especially with the airlines. And I was wondering if you all were aware of the airlines isn't exactly an environmentally friendly environment, and I know AI also has a lot of environmental impact. I was wondering if there's anything that's being done to possibly offset something like that, or is there any concern for that? If you
So
guys would
offsetting
be
the
aware of that.
environmental impact of
AI,
AI
yeah.
and other technologies.
If that's something you are aware of from your end.
Well, I mean, there's strategies that all of the airlines are using to offset environmental impact. Using, I mean, eVTOLs, Houston's talked about that as another means of transportation that virtually has zero emissions. You've got sustainable jet fuels that are made out of materials that otherwise would just be waste. Having ways of investing in industries that promote this type of technology. We have a capital fund that we have at United that literally selects companies that produce sustainable jet fuels that we're trying to do all that we can to help them to be successful. And then, of course, you have all the different programs from planting trees. Some companies do a lot of that. Other companies try to capture greenhouse gases and then bury them in the ground. So, I mean, there's just a suite of things that are being done across the airline industry throughout aviation to help in this area. I think AI, again, is something that may help us to get to what the next item might be faster, but there's no shortage of things that are on the horizon right now that, given support and time, can make a big difference in the emissions that we generate.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Turnus David Jr. I'm a student at Elizabeth City State University, and my question was, you guys kind of glanced over the fact that we have the low employee thing in like the aerospace engineers, and I was going to ask, how are you guys going to bridge that gap? Because you guys bridge the gap with the pilots, with the cadet programs. Are you guys thinking about making a program for the aerospace engineers and the technicians that you guys need to bridge that gap?
I know for Delta, we currently do have, the Propel program is expanded for AMTs, so for our mechanics. And that's already stood up, it's gone. It's also for our ground mechanics. So we have 3 different type of pipelines because we do understand this industry you can't run this industry just with pilots. You have to have mechanics, you have to have ground support mechanics. So you have to have it all, and it's really important to everybody up here. So, at least for Delta, I'm not sure who else has other programs, but we do have at least the mechanic pipeline program.
Yeah, we have a lot of co-op programs and a lot of intern programs, and I'm sure every airline up here does. And so I would say, go to those websites and do it ahead of time, right? Look for who has those internships, who has those co-op programs that you can connect to, because every airline has those opportunities. It's just a matter of you proactively going out there and seeing what that opportunity looks like.
Same for Southwest, where you think about the tech ops employees. We have identified that in the future there will be a challenge as far as that pipeline is concerned. So we're creating programs, and as well as our ground service equipment technicians also.
Thank you guys so much.
Well, the line got longer again. Well, that's good. All right. But we're down to 4 minutes, but we'll.
Good morning. My name is Justin. I just wanted to ask, you touched on it briefly about the financial support that you guys give at American. I just wanted to know, what does that look like, and what are the qualifications for one to receive some of that?
Yeah, if you're doing about face and look to your left, that gentleman in the glasses, he'll help you.
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate it.
And stop at the Delta Propel booth as well, because we give financial assistance as well.
Great. All right. 3 minutes, 40 seconds.
Hi, my name is Hamadou, and I am a student at Elizabeth City State University. And this year specifically, there seems to be a lot more coverage on aviation disasters, at least within the media and all that. And I was wondering, one, how did that affect each of your airlines, and what did you guys do to increase your public trust again?
Yeah, so I think all of us that fly all over the world, we realize it's a very dynamic environment, so preparedness is the most important thing. And I think in aviation, you're always learning from, what happened and why, and how can we ensure that others gain knowledge and learn from those events so that you can prevent them and minimize the risk associated with that activity to the greatest extent possible. So I think we as an industry, all different components. You take the accident that happened in DC, there's a component from air traffic control, there's a component from the military, there's a component from flight operations. So we'll take all those components, incorporate them in our training programs, knowledge share, and get better from that perspective.
And at Southwest Airlines, we went big. So last year, we actually had 3 low-altitude events that we were not happy with. And we went back and looked at all of our policies and procedures, and then we took it a step further, and we actually had every pilot at Southwest Airlines come to our headquarters buildings and go through some training and a touch point on safety. So if you think about bringing all those pilots in, it was about a $60 million investment, and it was money well spent because we were able to engage with every pilot that flies for Southwest.
Yeah, and I would say I think transparency helps bring back that public trust. Owning what's going on, control what you can control. But I think it's transparency that really makes a difference from a public perspective.
All right, thank you.
All right, I'd say we're down to our last question that we have time for, although these are great.
Thank you so much for your time. My name is Tavonga. I just became a CFI. I'm out of Miami. My situation is a bit unique in that I'm an international student. I'm not American. I'm from Zimbabwe. And with that, I've found there's been a bit of pushback when I'm looking for just a mentor or someone who's going to be able to help me, because they're like, you're not really in charge of your long-term, position. I'm not sure. I have no idea where I'm going to end up long-term. So, I just want mentorship. I want a community, and I don't know if you have any encouragement or any tips for that, given my circumstance.
So I would say you're at the right place.
Because
that's what OBAP does, right? So you're here. So, connect to the programs, participate, build relationships, right? And you'll meet people, and they'll hear your story, and you'll connect. I think every one of us that have been here have long-term. I've been at OBAP 30 years, and every year I come, I meet someone else. Right. And I walk away with a few more mentees because of folks you just connect with. So just network and meet and shake hands and tell me your story, and you'll be amazed at what happens.
Okay.
And don't just wait for the networking opportunity where it's the networking event. When you're in the elevator and someone says hello, just take one more conversational tip with that person and just make a connection. It doesn't have to be some big event. Just every moment that you have to be with another human, make that connection.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much. I'm just going to officially end the panel here. I know there's some people, the panelists are here. I'm going to free you from your chairs and mingle, and you can still ask some questions. But thank you so much for being interactive. Thank you so much for listening. And thank you, panel, so much for giving your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.